Good morning, PRüF community. It is Monday, February 15th, and I am here to answer some AMA questions for the community AMA. Let's see here. We got some interesting questions today. We got one from Adam, and he says smart contracts are vulnerable to bugs, and even recently, 3 big DeFi projects were victims of this, costing users funds. How efficient and secure is your smart contract? And do you ever audit it by any external party? That's a great question. Let's see. I think way too many projects think of good engineering practices and security as something you clean up or tack on after writing your code. There's a slogan or a mantra: "Go fast and break things" for startup communities. But frankly, we think that's a terrible plan when you're working with programmable money. We have an intensive in-house testing process. Testing is a big part of what we do. A big part of the time that we spend is spent testing the contracts to make sure that all of the error conditions react properly, and make sure that any unexpected inputs don't create unexpected performance from the smart contracts. At any rate, in addition to our testing and formal in-house code review, we do utilize external auditing as well. It's always good to get an outside perspective when you're working with this kind of a project. We have been using solidity.finance for our external auditing. Our contracts, the ones that we have published now, have passed the audit process with no security vulnerabilities noted or bugs noted, nothing. The audit results are published at solidity.finance audits/PRÜF. So that's solidity.finance/audits/PRÜF, PRUF. The PRUF is uppercase. I don't think it matters. In addition to this audit, obviously, as we go forward and make any modifications to any contracts, even if we change the code base in some other way, we obviously will be having our entire contract network audited once again, to make sure that any minor modifications or even newly discovered vulnerabilities in Solidity or something like that don't adversely affect our users. I think, as with anyone who is working with programmable money in a responsible way, the security and integrity of our smart contracts is basically the top priority item for us. Let's see here. Next question. This is from Lloyd, aka FudCop. Most pre-sales come with a lot of hype and marketing for the project's visibility. How was the PRÜF team able to do this pre-sale without any of those, from what I know? He goes on to ask, were all the tokens sold? If no, what happens to the remaining tokens? Okay, Lloyd, this is a really good observation on your part. I think the most important thing here is how we have responded as a team to the pre-sale outcome. First, I want to make a couple things clear. First of all, the success of the project does not hinge on the pre-sale outcome or even on the eventual IDO. Of course, obviously, we are excited about funding, but we are internally funded and will develop and market PRÜF regardless of any kind of external funding outcomes. Second, the whole team is really a bunch of very highly technically oriented people, and internally we have pretty limited marketing experience in the crypto space. The airdrop and the pre-sale were our first efforts into crypto marketing, and we're sort of taking this in small steps, learning and adjusting our responses to meet the challenges that we find. The pre-sale was intended to be an outreach to the existing community primarily, and for the early supporters of the project. We netted about 13 ETH overall, which was less than we had hoped for, but in retrospect, that outcome was completely predictable, considering the lack of an effective marketing effort in the space. As a team, we interpreted this as an indication that there was a lack of effective preparation, and a strong indicator that we needed to find an experienced partner with a strong track record to guide our marketing strategy going forward. Although we were really good at making high quality software, Like I said, we're primarily technical, and marketing in this space is completely new to us. So as we bring people in on this, that'll bring an entirely new scope of expertise to the project. So we're pretty excited about that. After doing a little bit of research in the field, we decided to contract X10.agency to provide us with guidance and assistance in our marketing efforts. X10 is a top 5 PR agency targeted for crypto startups and has been instrumental in many extremely successful initial offerings. So, we're really happy to be working with the X10 team, and we're really excited about our growing exposure with X10's guidance and outreach. Let's see. Unsold tokens. Okay, unsold token allocations are being pushed forward into other promotional efforts, and those will eventually be folded into bounties, partnerships, liquidity, and other efforts to encourage growth and robust build out of the PRüF ecosystem. So that's any unused tokens. In this case, we're not going to be burning those tokens. As in all of our marketing efforts so far, these have also been mint on demand, so any unsold tokens are not actually circulating. Let's see here. We had from Albatross. I saw on your website that PRüF is a Sightglass Foundation project, and when I clicked through the website, it was literally empty with little to no information about the foundation. Can you tell me more about the foundation? Well, Albatross, I can't really share a lot with that because we're funded under an NDA with them. What I can say is they invest in things that they believe will produce favorable outcomes for their beneficiaries. That's about all I can say about that. Let's see here. Next question from Profitholic. Found info about your AMA in the other community. It seems to be interesting. I have checked up on the project, and here's my question. Is this the first project for the team? Yeah, frankly, this is the first DeFi project, or the first project in the blockchain space for the team. We have worked together on many other projects, both in a personal and contract capacity, but this is really our first public-facing project that we have worked on as a team. Let's see here. Abdullah Alabi. Where do you plan to get funds to promote the growth and accessibility of the PRüF ecosystem? Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, we are privately funded. Obviously, we hope to add our some other additional funding to our marketing war chest through the IDO and other key investment prospects. But ultimately, PRüF generates funds through the growth and use of the ecosystem. So this is a type of business model that can be bootstrapped. We are obviously open to limited outside investment, which would help accelerate growth, but ultimately, we're going to build PRüF with or without any outside funding. Thank you for that question. Let's see. We have one from Adam Lane here. PRüF team, please tell about the examples of further implementation. How do you expect humanity to use PRüF technology? Wow. Okay. Well, where do I start with this? This is one of the real challenges for marketing PRüF. Is as a platform, it's kind of impossible to cover all of the value propositions in a nutshell. A very short list of key areas where we feel that PRüF can create, value and align market incentives. That would include, let's see here, I have a list here. Verifying authenticity of mass manufactured goods, in the anti-counterfeiting efforts. Verifying authenticity of bespoke or unique items like artwork or things like that. Provenance and pedigree verification for rare or unique items. Theft prevention of serialized fungibles. That would be like cash or things like that have serial numbers. Fungible items with serial numbers. Peer-to-peer commerce and ownership verification. So, purchasing something from an individual, you could verify that it actually belonged to them and it wasn't stolen. Product discovery and sales for local, regional, and international supply chains. So that sort of goes back into our market space idea and build out where you can just look at something, a PRÜF-enabled object on the street, and you can say, hey, I'd like one of those. And using your smartphone or other internet-connected device, you can see if there's any those locally for sale, and if not, you can bring them in from international or local supply chains. Arm's length asset management for people that have needs to manage properties or things like that at arm's length. Brand stickiness and value added engagement for manufacturers or vendors. That's where, say, a major shoe company sells shoes, and they're PRüF enabled to verify that they're authentic and not counterfeit. That the process of verification and checking on the customer's part will bring them through into the brand's web portal, giving them additional opportunities to educate about the brand, and perhaps to make additional sales, things like that. Let's see here. We can handle just about any kind of business logic transactions, including blockchain-based collateralized loans, where you can have a physically collateralized loan using the blockchain. Value-added extension for blockchain-based non-fungible tokens. I've been talking about that a lot with the community, how we can extend existing NFT projects. Custom business logic for any kind of transactions handling NFTs or any other blockchain asset that's verifiable on the blockchain, actually. And also, the PRüF platform can be used as a turnkey, low-code or no-code development platform for all kinds of feature-rich NFT projects. PRüF as a platform can actually help people with limited development budgets or limited technical expertise to launch secure and fully functional platforms on the blockchain. So, or not platforms, but projects on the blockchain, especially ones involving unique NFTs and other types of similar blockchain assets. Let's see here. Thank you very much for that question, Adam Lane. Okay, from Tim McKinney. Do you have any plans on integrating with other famous projects? That's a good question. We're building out something completely new in the blockchain space. So our infrastructure is designed so it can integrate with and extend existing blockchain infrastructure. That's either through standards compliant interfaces like ERC 721 or through custom business logic that can be written as an adapter to other types of blockchain assets. For example, like I've been talking earlier in this week with the community, PRüF is designed to extend and enhance any project using ERC 721 compliant tokens. And we could either accomplish this through directly partnering with the other organization, or by a community member, even a single community member that is a token holder that wishes to build out or extend the capabilities of that token, can use the PRÜF ecosystem to do so. So it can either be done as a whole project. We cooperate with crypto zippies or whatever, and we add some file storage or multimedia features to their token, or even an individual user can actually build that out if they so desire. As far as formal partnerships, we're just beginning to reach out to other companies and organizations at this point. We're looking for where we can create value and align incentives with other organizations. Right now we're still building out, so we are just getting ready to do that as the infrastructure becomes mature, so that we can provide a good demonstration of what we can do. Certainly there are a few different things that we have targeted for prospective partnerships, but I'm really not at liberty to talk about those things at this point. As those things come to fruition, obviously we're going to be really excited about sharing those with the community. Let's see here. This is from Doobie. He is trying to comprehend the concept. It is sometimes a little hard to get your head around at first. If, for example, the physical item is a bike, is the manufacturer the only party allowed to create this item, or is an item only legitimate if the original party is the manufacturer? If not, what is stopping me from creating a new asset on the chain after stealing a product? And he also asks, if multiple items can become one new item, for example, a PC, the parts can be traded on their own, but also can be put into one item. Is there a way to make an overarching asset? All right, Doobie, thank you for this insightful and important question. In response to what is stopping me from creating a new asset on the chain after stealing a product. Unfortunately, there's no magic oracle of truth solution for onboarding existing assets. We call this, when we're working out engineering scenarios, we call this the library computer problem. As in, what keeps me from going to the library and claiming the computer that I'm using there as if it were mine? To address this, we've developed a few different solutions. In the case of the bicycle, for example, the manufacturer could tokenize the bicycle when it was manufactured, like you said. Likewise, any physical or online stores selling items can tokenize those items as they flow through their infrastructure. That adds some value and security for their customers. And we've developed contract infrastructure to make that as low cost and streamlined as possible. Obviously, this leaves all of the existing items out there in the world that are currently in use. So how do we expect to onboard these items without having them pass through a store or an incidental tokenization channel like a retailer? Well, for onboarding non-native items, things that weren't made with PRÜF in the first place, the authorization can be handled in several different ways. The first thing to keep in mind is that authorization to create or to mint new assets can be limited by wallet addresses. In this way, someone that holds an AC node in which items would be created can directly manage authorizations for creating assets. To mint an asset, you have to be authorized to do so in the contract that manages the asset class that you will be minting the asset into. So if you manage the Dallas, Texas bicycle asset class and you wanted to mint a bicycle into that, you would have to be authorized to do so. Manufacturers, for example, would authorize themselves to mint assets into their own asset class. So like Trek bicycles, they would have their own asset class and they would be the only ones that created assets in that class. AC nodes, just to briefly explain, they're sort of a critical part of the decentralization of the PRÜF infrastructure. So for your bicycle example, a bicycle shop, like a repair shop or a retail store, could hold an AC node, and they could personally, for example, onboard your vehicle or onboard your bicycle into their asset class. You bring the bicycle to them, and you're saying, hey, this is my bicycle. I bought it from you guys 3 years ago, or this is my bicycle. You've seen me riding this around for a while now, or just this is my bicycle, I have it. And if they're satisfied that it is indeed your bicycle and not stolen, then they could then onboard that for you into their asset class. Now, some AC nodes may decide to authorize other persons, such as a notary public or other publicly certified person, to perform onboarding for a fee. Obviously, in the case of onboarding an asset, like whether it was the bicycle shop that you were doing that at, or through some sort of service like a notary public, you would be required to show your identification, prove who you were, and there would probably be some record keeping on the part of that shop as to the serial number of the bicycle and your identification. Obviously, that is going to be a significant deterrent to people with stolen items. They're not really going to want to register their identification along with that item in case somebody comes looking for it. At any rate, back to notary publics or other publicly certified persons. Those could be trade organizations. A lot of times trade organizations have certifications, things like that. Basically, someone with some sort of public notoriety and something to lose if they act in bad faith would be who we would want to see designated as agents to onboard items. Either way, to align incentives, the agents themselves need to be accountable for their actions, and they're going to want to see some ID and tie that into their own personal records as far as that item and who onboarded it in the first place. We also have something called ID tokens, which are a a token that's intended to be issued through a KYC type process. Those are non-transferable tokens. They can't be transferred. Although an ID token might be required to mint certain types of assets, the token itself is not tied to the item in the asset record. Even though it's not technically tied to the asset record, assets minted using an ID token are going to be ultimately linked to the KYC user on the blockchain. And this creates a chain of custody. Since ID tokens cannot be transferred, this creates some accountability. You know, if you burn your ability to make assets or to mint assets by, acting in bad faith, you can't just get another ID token. It doesn't work that way. That kind of reduces incentives for people tokenizing stolen goods, as you'd have to provide legal evidence of your identity in order to register an item. So that would be kind of a counter to your own best interests as a person stealing things, to do that, obviously, because you'd be registering the fact that you in fact had the item or were claiming it as yours. This brings up an important privacy issue. Even though connecting an item to a person that is tokenized using an ID token, it's not easy. It would require a subpoena or a data breach of the KYC agency to do it. But minting with asset tokens is, strictly speaking, non-anonymous. For privacy, it would be best to purchase a PRüF native product, or to use a separate authorized certifying agent, like I said, the bicycle shop or the notary public. Someone that has a specific record destruction policy that is in alignment with local legal requirements. So typically, notaries are required to keep records of their transactions for a certain period of time, after which they can be destroyed. So you'd want to work with someone who complied with those legal requirements, so that you knew your records wouldn't be out there indefinitely. That is a complicated subject, and is one of the most challenging things that we've been dealing with here at PRüF, as far as trying to figure out a way to safely and effectively and privately onboard items. One of the other possibilities that we haven't really explored fully yet is there are a few different projects that actually use the blockchain to provide identity services. So that's another key possibility, and a partnership that we may be entering into with one of these organizations that provides blockchain-based identity services. So that's another possibility that would sort of take the place or supplement the ID token concept. Basically, all of these ideas pivot on a central point, and that point is there has to be some kind of accountability, so that someone is disincentivized from stealing an item and registering it as theirs, as your question stated. Typically, that's going to be by making that person that registers that item accountable and ultimately traceable if the item turns up as having been stolen. Obviously, that is in direct conflict with some of our privacy goals. We haven't found a way completely around that. There are some options like record destruction with certifying agencies that give that over after a period of time. And obviously stuff that is objects that are manufactured or sold already tokenized in the PRÜF ecosystem don't suffer from that problem. There was another part to this question, which was, is there a way to make an overarching asset? The answer to that is yes, absolutely. Although in the current version of the interface, there isn't any flow for this, it is 100% supported in the PRÜF infrastructure. In the next version of the interface, we will be introducing parent objects and groups, definable groups in the interface. And when you define something in a group, that will change the way that those objects are displayed. In the current interface, you can manually link objects, but it does not change the way they're displayed. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but yes, definitely objects can be linked, one as being a parent or child object of a set, and Yeah, basically the answer to your question is there a way to make an overarching asset? Absolutely. Yes, there is. In reply, now here we have another question. Thank you for that question, by the way, and hopefully that answer was sufficient to help people to understand. We have another question from Caleb. Hello, admin. Do you have any plans to integrate with Binance Smart Chain or any other blockchains? Well, Caleb, that is a great question. It's been obvious to us since the beginning of this project that the Ethereum 1 network would not be able to provide the network capacity or the transaction economy that PRÜF requires for operation at scale. We're looking at hundreds of thousands to millions of transactions per day in a fully developed and built out PRÜF system. So we are not expecting the Ethereum 1 network to handle that. We have been considering other blockchains since the inception of the project, and we're also tracking Binance Smart Chain, High Performance Blockchain, and other projects as potential platforms. We're hopeful to see what Ethereum 2 might make possible, but we are fully prepared to move to another chain if necessary. So that's a really good question, and one that we have been well aware of from the very beginning, and the recent spike in gas prices has only brought this into even tighter focus. But there was never a question about whether or not in the long term the Ethereum network as it is would be able to support this. The answer is definitely no. We're going to have to be moving to a higher performance blockchain, or Ethereum 2 possibly will handle the volume that we will be producing. We will just have to play that by ear for now until we see the Ethereum 2 performance. But there are a couple of other options out there that are currently in testing and maturing platforms that look like they will be adequate to serve our needs. So there's a definite possibility of that down the pike. This kind of leads into another question that a few people have had, and that is that knowing this, why did we launch on Ethereum in the first place? Well, the answer to that is quite simple. It's mostly because of the fact that the Ethereum blockchain is by far the most mature, the best tools for building on it, and analyzing security and things like that, auditing agencies, etc. The best accessibility to community, everything is on Ethereum at this point. We did this knowing that we'd probably end up having to switch chains, but decided that the gains that we have from launching on Ethereum initially, as far as tooling and community, far outweighed the disadvantages of having to port it to another platform. We're not concerned about porting this to another platform. We can get up to speed on new tooling and stuff in a period of weeks. I don't see that as being a real struggle. Anyway, so yes, that is definitely something we've been thinking about since the very beginning, and we launched on Ethereum mainly due to community and tools that are available at this point. And we'll see what Ethereum 2 has to offer. It's possible that Ethereum 2 will be able to support what we're trying to do. We're hopeful that it will. If not, there's options. Okay, another question from Dyna146. Will you conduct your IDO on polkastarter or other IDO platform? Well, Dyna, we haven't made a final selection for the IDO platform, but what I can tell you is that we will be definitely targeting one of the top 10 DEXs. Obviously, we are looking at the potential for platforms like Polkadot and Uniswap to perform our IDO, but we haven't made a final decision at this point. Definitely going to be working with one of the top 10, if not one of the top 5s. However, we think that that's the best choice for the community. Okay, I think that does it for our AMA questions at this point. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll be announcing the winners as far as the questions that we chose to receive awards, and we thank you for joining us for this AMA session. Anyway, just a little update. This week we're working hard on testing. We got a few new contracts to test involving wrapping and decorating of ERC 721 assets. as well as some other features that we haven't that hadn't rolled out when we did our last set of audits. So we're vigorously testing those and getting those ready to feed into the audit pipeline. And other than that, we've got a bunch of UX tuning work going on. We're looking at getting the IPFS loading faster with a sort of a preload feature that loads known information before verifying it on the blockchain IPFS, and then verifies it in the background and reloads anything that's necessary. That's going to provide a much smoother and faster interface experience for the application. We're also looking at pagination. If you have like a lot of assets, right now it's just a scroll list. We're looking at making that into pages, and as well as a table view for our condensed view. We're also working on rolling out the interface component for nested assets. Nested assets, where one asset can contain other assets or a list of other assets, has been a feature that's been present in PRüF from the very beginning, but there hasn't been any support for it in the interface up until now. So we'll be working on that. You'll be seeing these features roll out over the next few weeks. They'll be rolling out to the testing group first, and so we're excited about checking that stuff out and seeing how people use it. And yeah, that's what's going on this week. Other than that, we are starting our AC node holder grant program, and that is going to be for keystone AC nodes that represent exceptional value propositions, and people that want to build those nodes out and would like some support and to work with us in getting those nodes rolled out initially.